Guinea's ex-military ruler, Moussa Dadis Camara, has been recaptured and returned to prison hours after an apparent jailbreak led by a heavily armed commando unit. Now, according to an army official, at least two other former officials on trial alongside Camara over a 2009 massacre during his presidency were taken in the earlier operation that sparked heavy gunfire in the capital, Conakry.
His lawyer, Pepe Antoine Lamar, also confirmed that his client was back behind bars, but denied that the ex-leader had willingly participated in a jailbreak, saying that he had been kidnapped by armed men. Justice Minister Alphonse Charles Wright said earlier that the attack at the prison facility by heavily armed men who burst into the prison and managed to leave with 4 prisoners was an attempt to sabotage government reforms and swore its unwavering commitment to the current military-led authorities. Joining us this morning is journalist and media consultant Sanna Camara. He joins us from the Gambia. Good morning and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'd like you to, I don't know if you have information as to what exactly was the true situation. It seems like we're having conflicting reports. Whilst an image is being painted of an attempted jailbreak, a likely attempted jailbreak, another image that is being presented by Camara's lawyers is that his client was unfortunately, his client was attempted to be kidnapped. Part of the reports or the reports that was given to the AFP was that he was returned safe and sound. So what is the true position? Was it an attempted jailbreak? Was it an attempted kidnap?
Now, like you said, it's two conflicting stories. The government position is that there had been indeed a jailbreak led by some commando forces who were well armed and they overpowered the prison guards. And when they entered the prison, they went in straight for Dadis Camara and they announced to the prisoners they were there for Dadis Camara and some of his colleagues. 4 of them were broken out of their jail and then their cell, and then they were smuggled out of the prison. Now, the conditions under which they were caught wasn't made public for now. All that the government said that they're back in custody. Obviously, when the lawyer for Dadis Camara came public to say that the client or his client has been kidnapped from prison, it is a claim that is going to stand the test of the outcome of the investigations that the government is already employing. Because they've made it clear that they are going to get to the bottom of this and the forces that have been behind this will be held accountable. So in the meantime, peace and calm have returned to Conakry and people are going about their business while government is going ahead with investigations to furnish the public with the events as they unfold.
I mean, can you share with us, how much influence Moussa Camara still wields in your country? And of course, is there still allegations that he maybe is in charge or has the support of these armed groups in the Gambia?
In Guinea.
In Guinea, I beg your pardon.
Yes. Dadis Camara was a captain of the army, and when he took over power at the time, he was an officer of the Guinean army. Obviously, when he was leading the council at the time called the Council for National Council for Development and something along those lines, because it's a French acronym. But then what happened was at the time of his transition, when he suspended the constitution and then lead a cabinet, 75% of which constituted the military, there was some uprising, civilian uprising against him. And then that led to the massacre that happened, the infamous massacre in the stadium where over 150 Guineans died, including women and some young people. Now, Dadis is denying knowledge of this massacre. That is why his lawyer is claiming that Dadis trust in the justice system of Guinea, and that's why he's subjecting himself to a trial to prove his innocence. Because he said he was sleeping in the morning around 11 a.m. when they woke him to inform him that there was mass firing in the stadium. So he's denying any responsibility of what happened there. So on the other hand, the current transition that's ongoing, led by Colonel Doumbia, is it's a far right kind of a thing, because it's very popular within the Guineans, but then there are other forces that are also against this. I think the in this context, the reason why they're going for someone like Dadis Camara is to look at somebody with influence and support, so that who can be able to lead a military movement against the current leadership of Colonel Doumbia. And that is, in some quarters, is still highly respected and highly regarded by some of the military men and some of the civilian population.
Okay, I want you also to, take us back to 2009 and the massacre that happened in 2009. What was government like before 2009? Now, we know that there were pro-democracy activists who were at the stadium protesting, and unfortunately, there were reports of over 150 people who were killed, women who were raped, and so many terrible things happened to the civilians who were there protesting. Now, like you mentioned, he's denied, he's pled not guilty, although one of his co-accused has said that he is responsible for all of that. But what was life like in Guinea, I beg your pardon, pre the 2009 massacre, and how have the people of Guinea been able to, have the people of Guinea been able to move on past that unfortunate incident?
Uh, Life under Lassana Conte was the civilian leader at the time. He stayed in power for a very long time, I think close to a little over 30 years. He's been ruling in Guinea, and he only maintained that kind of rule because he had very strong alliances with top military rulers. So there was a lot of maladministration, if we might call it. There was rampant corruption in government, and there was mass poverty. Now, when Dadis Camara stepped in, he said he was suspending the constitution, and then the military are taking over because the system of governance they had was unable to fix the state, the national needs of Guinea. And this is an issue that went down well with a lot of Guineans. Of course, it's not just unique to Guinea, but I think it's a situation that today is you can see across a lot of Francophone West Africa. It's on similar grounds that today that Colonel Doumbia is also ruling. So, in fact, after Dadis Camara went into exile, the civilian leadership will not allow him back into the country because of his popularity. They think that he was still going to be a source of instability when he's allowed back into the country. Until the military came in recently, the past 2 years, they allowed him back. Now, it this new change of government gave them an opportunity to put things behind. That's why even after he was welcomed back into the country, the Colonel Doumbia's government opened an investigation to look into the issues of that 2009 incident, and it was backed by United Nations, and it was independent. The findings, like you said, were very horrific. The sexual assault cases, because the rape cases and sexual assault cases alone were more than 100 of Guinean women, of course, under his leadership when the military were there. So I think there was a lot of things that were mixed into all of that. When Colonel Doumbia came and presented a national reconciliation to look at those issues and try to put them behind him, they were trying to do things in a just way so that he goes through the justice system, and the findings of the court will determine whether or not he was partly or fully responsible for this. So when the jailbreak happened, it could be two things. One, either might send a signal that he's attempting to flee, or maybe he doesn't have confidence, or maybe there could be other forces outside who might want to use his popularity to, like Colonel Doumbia's government is claiming, to sabotage the ongoing reforms that are being instituted in Guinea under his rule.
All right. Looking at where Guinea is right now, we have an interim president, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, who, of course, ousted Alpha Conde. How would you rate the current administration? Would you say that Guinea is ripe for democracy as democracy is run in other parts of the world? We know that he had strongly condemned a lot of actions, especially during the Niger coup, and they had sort of showed their support for what was happening in Niger, stating that a lot of presidents need to look inward and reflect as to what exactly is going on with their leadership. So far, would you say that, how would you rate Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya's time in office so far as interim president? How would you say that Guinea is ripe for democracy as it's run in other parts of the world?
Yeah, Colonel Doumbia, Mamadou Doumbia, going by the universal standards of democracy, being a military leader makes it difficult for someone like him to be accepted as a, as a Democrat. That's one reason why he planned to organize a civilian government probably in the next 2 years. In fact, he said 2 years after January 2023. So probably in the next 1 year, 1 month or so, there will be elections in Guinea. However, the conditions of Guinean population, especially the economic, the underlying conditions that led his Colonel Doumbia and his colleagues to take over power, has changed drastically in terms of how the mineral resources of Guinea are being utilized for the benefit of Guineans. Guinea is a mineral resource rich country, and because there are issues underlying their relationship with their French colonial power, that they believe we are using those resources for the benefit of French population instead of the Guineans. Now, most of those resources have been taken over or have been nationalized, and now they are being processed and they are being sold in the world market, and they are being utilized to finance development needs of the Guinean population. So it will only stand the test of time. I mean, who knows whether he will even run for elections after the 2 years, and if his policies and his reforms are going down well with the Guinean population, they might vote for him to continue these reforms. But in the meantime, he is quite popular with the average Guinean, because they have seen a far difference between what obtained under his military rule compared to what used to obtain under the democracy that they used to have under Lassana Conde, and Alpha Conde, who were very strong allies of the French government. Now, this is also a situation because the French are not really happy. One of the reasons why Colonel Doumbia is undergoing a lot of pressure is because France has not agreed to cut ties with Guinea, because there is a long colonial umbilical cord that is binding them together. The French forces have been kicked out of Guinea. Of course, there are still remnants of them there, but by December, all of them are supposed to leave Guinea against their will. So there are a lot of other efforts that are also undermining Guinea's reform or transition agenda, because it might send a wrong signal to other military leaderships in West and Central Africa. It might be seen as a bad example when they succeed where the other civilians are failing. So it's a very mixed situation, but overall it will only be, I think the end of the 2 years will determine whether or not his model of democracy is what Guinea deserves, or whether is the former.
All right. I think the final question from me would be on the trial. Now that he has been recaptured, what is the pace of the trial looking like? It seems a little slow. And, where do you think this goes next?
The Ministry of Justice came out with a statement that did not touch on the trial per se, but right now they want to focus on the circumstances surrounding the jailbreak. Now, if his lawyer is able to make a case and the government is able to establish that he has no hand in this jailbreak, the trial may resume to continue. But I am really very sure that once it is established that he has a hand in this, it will mean a different ball game for him altogether. Remember, the charges that he is facing, these are very wild charges, and if he's convicted of those charges, he's going to serve life in jail. So it all depends on what these investigations are going to reveal, and whether or not this was an attempt by either himself or there are some outside forces. In fact, there have been some analysis that yes, he was aware of this, and in fact, he approved this operation, but because they failed in the process, that's why he surrendered himself to the military. It wasn't a case of kidnap, but all of these are just, for now, is just hypothesis, unless we have something substantial put forward to the judiciary or to the prosecutor's office.
All right. Thank you to our guest this morning, journalist and media consultant, Sanna Camara, for joining us. I look forward to having you when we have more updates on this story.
Thank you for having me once again.
All right.